Alrighty. I think we're live. What's going on, everybody? We're gonna let people. We're gonna get some. We're gonna get some interesting conversations going on today. That's for sure. This was a very spicy one. I'm gonna give this a few minutes to let people roll in. I'm going to just let people know we're live. What's up, David? Paraguay. Retro Brandon. I think people are either they're like purposefully misunderstanding what I'm trying to say with this, or they're just so locked in that they're unwilling to change their mind. But let's let a few more people come on in. No worry, David. People do it all the time. Even my girlfriend, for the first like 3, 4, 10 dates, would call me Tyler sometimes. So don't worry. You are not alone. I don't know what it is. I don't know if people think Taylor is a girl's name or Tyler is just easier. I don't know what it is, but is for eternity, people have always called me Tyler when they first meet me. Yep. Okay, so anyway, let's just get people caught up with what's going on, because the other day I'm gonna turn the audio down a little bit. Oh, I can't because I'm using this stupid beacon thing. Hold on. God, I hate this. All right, there we go. I believe in both turn-based and action. See, that's the thing. I'm not even saying turn-based is worse than action. And that was something else that I think a lot of people misinterpreted. Was like, oh, well, you just like action. That's not what I'm even saying. Nowhere in this tweet do I mention action combat at all. Ekurisona, I have to go to bed. What is the harsh truth about turn-based combat? The harsh truth is that I think so that people totally whipped on your thesis. Yes, exactly. So this was aimed at developers, okay? I'm not saying turn-based RPGs don't have a right to exist. I'm not saying that turn-based RPGs are bad. My favorite game of all time is a turn-based RPG, Persona 4 Golden. And like my second favorite game is Final Fantasy 7, also a turn-based game. So people are purposely misinterpreting what I'm saying. So let me just read the tweet. Let me explain. Yes, Octopath. I love Octopath. So let me read the tweet, explain what I meant, and then we can I have examples to back up what I'm saying. Okay. So, a heartfelt word of advice to developers working on RPGs with turn-based combat. Again, this is not saying you can't enjoy turn-based RPGs. This is not saying turn-based RPGs are bad. This was targeted at developers because I'm trying to help them sell as many copies as possible, right? Simply having turn-based combat isn't good enough. You need something extra to spice it up, or players will get bored or find it boring. Some examples: timed button presses, ability to speed up battles. Am I getting feedback? No. Okay. Ability to speed up battles, gaining an extra turn. Actually, you know what? I might be getting feedback. No? Okay. Sorry. Oh, you just saw a bunch of stuff maybe you shouldn't have seen. Oh, well. I'm hearing myself somehow, and I don't know why. Anyway, some examples: time-based button presses, ability to speed up the battles, gaining an extra turn if you hit an enemy's weakness, chained echoes overdrive system. So these were just some examples. People are like, oh, everything in Persona has been done to death. Why does everything need to be Persona? Or time button presses are annoying. I'm just giving examples of things to do that you can do to spice up turn-based combat. So what I mean by just having turn-based combat isn't good enough, I'm not saying you can't put out a game with turn-based combat and that's not good enough. What I'm saying, I'm talking bare bones turn-based combat. Like, we have turn-based combat, we're done. That's all we need. I'm talking like Final Fantasy 1 level turn-based combat, like you attack, I attack, the end. That's what I meant by simply having turn-based combat isn't good enough. Like that style of turn-based combat. And I say that because there have been games that I've been playing lately that have combat like that. And I'm like, no, you need more. This is not good enough. You need to add something to spice it up, like timed button presses, like Super Mario RPG or Sea of Stars. Now, I think Sea of Stars had a problem because it got repetitive because they didn't add new ways to interact with that turn-based or the timing-based button presses. It was cool at first, but then it's like you're doing that boomerang thing until like the very end of the game. Like they needed to add more abilities. The ability to speed up battles. Basically every remaster has this mechanic, right? Think of it. Like think about all the old JRPGs that they're remastering, the Suikoden collection, all the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, Lunar, they're all adding speed up mechanics, right? Because it's slow and boring. Getting an extra turn, that was just an example, right? So you have the SMT games, Metaphor, Persona. Maybe there's other games that do that. I don't know. And then again, this was just an example because this was so unique. Like Chained Echoes Overdrive, it's not just, oh, we spam our most powerful attacks. No, you actually have to think when you're fighting. I love that. Okay? And then look at games that have made turn-based combat exciting and fun. Metaphor, Persona, Chained Echoes, Octopath Traveler, and then find your own way, your way to put your own unique spin on it. So what I was trying to say in this is that you need to add a little something extra or people are going to find it boring, okay? And like, let's just look at recent history, right? Both Metaphor and Persona 5 were nominated for Game of the Year. Why? Because, well, the games are good. They're visually stunning, but their combat, it's like you can do turn-based combat and still have a Game of the Year contender, right? But besides, I mean, I'm thinking in real time here, but remind me of another game that was nominated for Game of the Year that had turn-based combat that wasn't Persona or Metaphor. And I know Baldur's Gate has turn-based combat. That's very different, though. I'm not talking about CRPGs. I'm talking about JRPGs, okay? And I could be missing something. I'm trying to remember the recent Game of the Year nominees. I mean, there was Xenoblade, but that's, I don't even know what you call that. But yeah. So that was my point. Because maybe I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but a couple days ago I streamed the demo for Maliki Poison of the Past, and as I was playing it, I'm like, this is so basic. It's like everybody has sort of a unique ability type, and then you just attack and defend, and like that's it. It's like really basic. Now it did have a unique thing that after I played the demo a second time, I kind of got a better grasp of. But they have this thing where you can manipulate the turn order and heal yourself. So that's unique. But think of every major big JRPG like of consequence that has turn-based combat. What's up, Bubbles? So happy to see you streaming more. Oh, thanks, Bubbles. You're the best. I appreciate you doing a super chat. You're the best. I'm going to like that and heart it. Yes. If you guys don't know Miss Bubbles, she's the best. And then I also think people misinterpreted what I say. I think people don't know what I mean by bare bones combat. Like I said, I'm talking Final Fantasy 1, nothing. And then people brought up like, I think the trump card was like, oh yeah, well, Dragon Quest, case closed. But then it's like, okay, let's think about Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest HD 2D just came out. What did it add? The ability to speed up battles. Why? Because the base combat system is a little too slow and boring. Right now, most people probably aren't going to use that. Well, actually, I don't know. I would love to see the numbers on that. Like, who actually turned that on? But then Dragon Quest 11, like base Dragon Quest didn't have it. But when they did the S version and they put it out everywhere, they added the ability to speed up battles. Same with when they did the 3DS port of Dragon Quest 8, they added the ability to speed up battles. So it added, Dragon Quest 11 isn't even like bare bones turn-based combat anymore, okay? But then people were like, oh, how about Pokemon? I'm like, Pokemon is like super dynamic. Like, and then there was the direct today. They're like adding in like movement and positioning and stuff like that. Like Pokemon is absolutely not bare bones combat. Like even if we go to like Pokemon Red and Blue, there's like weakness system. Your Pokemon like level up. There's like the TMs or whatever they're called. You can like equip unique abilities. So, and you can swap Pokemon in the middle of the fight. Like Pokemon is not bare bones combat. And neither is Octopath Traveler. Are you kidding me? Like you can speed up battles. You can save up turns. There's like the system where like if you hit the weakness a number of times, you can break them and then stagger them. So like Octopath Traveler is nowhere close to a turn-based combat system. Now, people were saying the harsh truth. Oh, that's clickbait. Taylor, you're crazy. Why are you saying the harsh truth? Why are you trying to do clickbait? I'm going to show you something, and I'm not trying to hate on these guys. In fact, one of them I'm actually really good friends with behind the scenes. We're doing some really cool stuff that I can't talk about just yet, but in a couple months you'll see it's going to be amazing. But I just want to show you, like when you do bare bones JRPGs that are like throwback retro style, let me just show you an example. So this is Josh from Critical Games. He did the game 8-Bit Adventures 2. So he said it's the 2-year anniversary and we've sold over 19,000 copies. Now you might be thinking, oh, that's what, you know, whatever you want to think. 19,000 copies isn't a lot. Now, he's a one-man guy, and I know he's probably got a couple people that help him, and that's probably enough to help him like fund his next game, and that's great. But like that game is very much like if we could make a game but put it on the NES, like this is what the game is, and it's well made. Like I've played it, I've featured it on the channel several times. It's a great game, but that's only 19,000 copies, right? And you know, it reviewed very well, like 80 of the, you know, of critics recommend it, 84. And let's hop over to Steam real quick, right? So very positive all-time reviews, only 241 reviews. That's not a lot. And again, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Listen, I'm not saying this is bad. I'm not saying that you can't enjoy these games. I'm not saying people can't make these games. But if you want a game with wide appeal, you need to add something more. Now let's look at Chained Echoes, right? And now this is all going to be in won because I'm in Korea and I haven't put my VPN on. But let's look at Chained Echoes. 6,200 reviews, okay? And look at what it did. It added this totally wild twist on turn-based combat. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. Like the visuals look amazing, but even the visuals, right? Like the visuals are not trying to be a Super Nintendo era accurate game. Like it's doing pixel art is just the art style, and they're doing their own thing. Now, 240 copies of reviews versus 6,200. This game probably sold several 100,000 copies, is my guess. I don't know. I don't know the sales data. They haven't published the sales data as far as I know. But simply based on the reviews, I'm just trying to do some reasonable deduction here that it sold very well. Now, I would consider this a success. You know, 20,000 copies. The series at 50,000 copies. That's great. You know, and Josh is an awesome dude. He's so like supportive of me and the community. And I know that he also works on a bunch of other games. So like, that's great. This is probably enough for him to fund the next game and, you know, make it 8-Bit Adventures 3 or whatever. So I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that's he should be ashamed or anything, but I'm saying 19,000 copies versus Chained Echoes probably sold several 100,000 copies. Like my point is, if you want you want your game to sell to more people, you need to add a little bit more, right? Now this one breaks my heart. Again, I'm not trying to dunk on this. I'm just trying to show you an example, okay? So this guy, Justin Matsuzawa, he made a game called Starlight Legacy. Let's look at this game. Okay, Starlight Legacy. This game looks awesome, right? It's a Super Nintendo era accurate turn-based JRPG, right? Like, look at this game. The pixels look awesome. Animation looks cool. They have the Mode 7 thing where you can fly around. But look, again, 13 reviews, right? And the combat, engage in, this is my point, right? Engage in turn-based combat. just having bare bones turn-based combat isn't good enough. Like, look at this combat. It's just one guy attacks, the enemy attacks, you attack, the enemy attacks. I watched reviews. The turn-based combat is kind of basic, and this one breaks my heart. He said he was basically trying to get people to get more reviews, because on Steam, if you have less than 10 user reviews, you don't get pushed in the algorithm. And so he's saying, like, you know, sales are really low. Please, if you reviewed the game. Now, they did eventually get over 10 reviews. Like, they're at 13 reviews. And this is a really well-made game. Like, look at this. Like, this was made by one guy. He should be super proud of, like, what he made. It looks awesome. Like, I could never make a game like this. But again, it's not selling very well, and it's not appealing to a wide audience. Like, people always say, like, oh, like, let's get more retro style games. Here it is. Nobody bought it. And maybe people don't know about it. Like, me and David have been trying to push this. Like, I know David Vink made a video including this, and I have a big upcoming event. I kind of just gave it away a little bit, but I have something special I'm doing where I will feature this game pretty heavily. But again, my point is, unless you have something of a little bit more substance, it just doesn't have as wide of appeal as people think it does. Now, again, I'm not saying you can't just make a game for fun. I'm not saying you can't make a game however you want, but I'm saying if you want your game to sell a lot of copies, then you need to add something that makes it more exciting for a bigger audience. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So now I've been really not looking at the chat because I really wanted to just get my point across. So let me kind of see. Let me see if you've got a reply, a rebuttal, something. Like, now's your time. Like, toss it in here, because I want to reply to what you guys are saying here. Okay, so Dragon Quest XI won best role-playing game in 2017. Very much deserved, I think. I love Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest XI is like probably one of my top 10 favorite games ever, but my least favorite part is the combat. I didn't love Metaphor. I feel like the story really fell off. Okay. Could they learn from, like, Dragon Quest IW? Do you mean Dragon Quest 9? I'm not sure. I didn't play Dragon Quest 9. I know that was more of a multiplayer-centric thing. But Starlight Legacy is on my wish list, and I would have bought it if I didn't have a backlog. Starlight Legacy demo is really fun. Oh, Infinite Wealth. I'll Like a Dragon. God. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. There's a developer waiting to release their game. I don't ever want him to go to a wider audience approach, as it is impossible. Okay. Eddie Sensei's Private Night Lesson. Can you tell me the name of the game? Yeah, Bravely Default. So that's a totally separate tweet, totally separate discussion. But yeah, I think, like, Bravely Default is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. I feel like it totally gave JRPGs a breath of fresh air. It added, like, the ability to speed up battles, turn off encounter rate. It has the Brave and Default system that Octopath Traveler has. Is this where we come to learn all about the secrets? Yes, I have all the secrets. Armed Decobot is the game he's developing. The developer is called Boghog. Okay. I got to play Clair Obscur. No, I don't have Clair Obscur. I'm just saying I want it. I'm a wanter of Clair Obscur. I want that, but I don't have it yet. I only found Starlight Legacy digging deep into Steam JRPG arrivals and demos. If I didn't do that, I never would have known about it. Yeah, well, again, I think that's why he was asking for reviews, so he could bump it up in the algorithm. But again, like, okay, let's do an experiment. Let's do an experiment right now. What's been your favorite indie JRPG of the last, let's say, 5 years? This little experiment is going to prove my point. James Romero. Chained Echoes. Okay, we got Chained Echoes. It's hard to get eyes on indie games, and it's getting harder. Sea of Stars. Eiyuden Chronicle. Okay. Bloomtown. Okay. Monster Sanctuary. I have not heard of that one. Let's look that up. Monster Sanctuary. Not Monster Hunter. Sanctuary. Is this sort of like a... Ooh, it's 2D. Interesting. Pixel art looks awesome. Is it a roguelike? No, creature collector. It's a Metroidvania. Okay. Interesting. So it's like a creature collector and use their abilities to get around. Oh, and then you do like turn-based combat in the... Huh, that's interesting. Okay. Legend of Heroes is absolutely not indie. I would say that's like AA or A. Okay. Bloomtown, Monster Sanctuary. Okay, so again, Chained Echoes. Chained Echoes is a one-man game, right? Like that's indie. Doesn't get more indie than that. It had a publisher, but it's very indie. Now, it did something so special and unique that it created this groundswell. It made creators like me, Alex, a Backlog Battle, David Vink. It made us want to get out there and make content about it. Why? Well, it's good, but the combat is super unique, right? Super unique. Gorgeous pixel art, obviously. Same with Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars doesn't have simple basic combat. I saw a bunch of people mention Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars has that like time button press thing where you can kind of... Oh, be quiet, Siri. Where you can bounce your attacks, so you have to do the time button presses to keep it going more. Eiyuden Chronicle is essentially Suikoden, right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Does Eiyuden Chronicle have a speed up mechanic? Now, of course, the unique thing about Eiyuden Chronicle is you have 6 people in your party, but then it also has gimmicks, right? Like, let's think of the boss battles. There's boss battles. There's the first one, I believe, is like there's that crane that you have to manipulate. Like, that's really unique, right? That is not basic ass turn-based combat. That's super unique. And then not only in Eiyuden Chronicle, you have the rows, right? So you have to like, okay, don't put your casters in the front, put them in the back. There's some strategy to that. So again, I don't think Eiyuden Chronicle has basic turn-based combat either. And then this is a really great example. I saw someone bring up Edge of Eternity, right? And this is perfect because they just announced their next game, Edge of Eternity. Now, I could be wrong, but let's look at this combat. Like, okay, recent mix, mostly positive, but like, if we go here, what's Edge of Eternity at? On OpenCritic. Edge of Sanity? Edge of Eternity, a 63, right? I think it's because it's got overly long battles and okay, the battles take too long. Like, let's look at a review. Edge of Eternity review. Oh god. Edge of Eternity review. All right, well, let's look at Noisy Pixel. And then the combat, I believe, is pretty basic, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I have not played this game. But again, this is my point is, okay, they did this, but then Edge of, oh God, what they just announced their next game. What is it called? Edge of Echoes? No. Edge of, it filled it in almost on Edge of Memories. Now, again, people might misinterpret what I'm saying here. They changed this to action combat. It looks like, it's hard to tell exactly what their combat system looks like, but they have said that the combat is very different. But Edge of Eternity, from what I understand, has pretty basic turn-based combat. Like, I attack, the enemy attacks. I attack, the enemy attacks. Like, there's nothing special about it. But yeah, this looks like real-time action to me. So my point is, what were the ones that brought up? Games that did something unique with turn-based combat, right? Nobody brought up, like, I can't even think of one, right? Like, because the ones that are doing basic turn-based combat just don't get talked about. Edge of Eternity disappointed me, and combat was one of the biggest reasons why. But you didn't get Chained Echoes for the unique combat. It was the fact that it was turn-based combat with the flesh. I genuinely think that Chained Echoes got a lot of attention because obviously it's a beautiful, the pixel art's beautiful. Like, that helps a lot. Here, let me just get a review going. We can play it in the background. Chained Echoes review. Switch up. These guys are great. Okay. So, story. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's got great turn-based combat. Visuals are like gorgeous. But again, then the other thing that Chained Echoes does with its combat, they kind of pull from Chrono Trigger, right? Where it gets like it's real time. Like, you just jump into the battles. Yeah, and as I'm saying that, they just mentioned Chrono Trigger. Yeah, so you just kind of bump into the battles. So I think it's an amalgamation of everything, right? It looks gorgeous, story is cool, but I think the combat had a big part of it. If all this was the case, like if it was gorgeous and had a cool story, but then the combat was just like, I attack, you attack, I attack, you I just don't think people would care as much. I don't think it would be as beloved. On top of the overdrive system, it also does this thing where you can swap out party members in real time. And then there's the mech battles. Like, Chained Echoes does a lot. Chained Echoes does a lot that makes it unique. And if you think about, like, even like the big boys, like, that are doing turn-based combat, they all do something unique. Like we've already mentioned Metaphor and Persona, like, to death. I don't want this to turn into, only Persona can work. But like, I'm trying to, even like Dragon Quest, right? Like, I know people kept bringing up Dragon Quest, but there's rumors that Dragon Quest 12 might also be changing up its combat. It might be doing something different. They haven't shown anything, but it's possible that they're gonna, adjust how that combat works, but we'll see. All right, let's see. Personally, I adored I Am Setsuna, but the combat was pretty weak despite having team combos, bump battles, much like Chrono Trigger. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, the I Am Setsuna was an interesting one. I'm not convinced the combat has a lot to do with the attention and the visibility of the game. It does impact reviews, though. You know what? You're probably right, Brandon. Here, when I think of like my personal hype cycle for a game, it usually goes like this. Visuals catch my eye first. If the game's ugly, it has an uphill battle, right? Like Undertale, right? The visuals are whatever. Like, they're basic. But the gameplay is great. So it eventually made up for that. But like, when you see, like, I'll never forget my reaction to the Star Ocean Second Story R trailer when they revealed it. Like, as soon as they showed the visuals, like, what the hell? This is like the coolest looking HD 2D game ever. So for me, it's usually visuals get my attention. And then we got to dig into it. It's like, okay, what is the flow of the game? Like, is the story interesting? And is the gameplay interesting? So I think you're right, Brandon. Like, it's not the first thing, but I think gameplay in the long run, if it's boring, people aren't going to like it and people aren't going to care. But that is a good point. So let's see what else people were saying. Our Tonelico's combat, I don't even know what that's like. I haven't had a chance to try Chained Echoes. Everything's better with mechs. Yeah. Then you do Chained Echoes Xenoblade crossover. That'd be interesting. Xenogears. Shining Resonance Refrain. Shining Resonance Refrain. I don't even remember how that battle... Was that action? The modern SMT games are my favorite. Yeah, me too. I love the One More or the press turn, whatever you want to call it. Dragon Quest 12. Yeah, it's going to be there for Switch 2 for sure, I think. Nobody has done that Xenogears combat system since Xenosaga. I actually like that system a lot where you build your own combos. That's super cool. Yeah, it wasn't a rumor. Yuji Horii said they would be changing Dragon Quest, but they never said anything about banning turn-based. I think if they change turn-based combat, or if they remove turn-based combat from Dragon Quest 12, I feel like Japan would riot. So I think they're going to keep it turn-based, but they might spice it up with something. We'll have to see. Let's see. What else are you guys saying here? What is this game? So the game I have on screen right now, this is Chained Echoes. Let's see. You gotta have a hook. Weird that the combat alone would put someone off playing a game. I mean, that's what you're doing most of the game, right? I mean, that's a good point. I don't want to miss people's names. I'm doing this with my... Okay, yes. 66JD? Yeah, I mean, like with Dragon Quest 11, I'm going to put that up because I want to talk about Dragon Quest 11 for a bit. Dragon Quest 11 review. There was a guy that doesn't make videos anymore. He had like one of the best Dragon Quest 11 reviews. It's like JRPG something. What was this? Here we go. JRPG Central. I don't know what happened to him. He just stopped making videos. This guy was awesome. But I will say that I like Dragon Quest 11 in spite of its combat. I think this game is great. It has... The story is fine. To me, it was about the exploration in this game. I loved exploring. I loved going to every new town. It was so gorgeous. I loved going to, you know, every little house and stealing everyone's treasures and stuff like that. That was my favorite. For me, a big thing in JRPGs is visuals and exploration. So if a game has great visuals and exploration, like thumbs up. I can look past the simplistic turn-based combat, but like I think if Dragon Quest 11 had like stellar, like even like way better, it did something to make it better, turn-based combat, then that would almost be like my favorite game ever. But the turn-based combat in the game is so basic. It's so simple. Let's see. Strong enough presentation, progression, story. Oh, I missed that. Went by too fast. Hold on. Can cover for bland combat, but it's pretty rare that that happens. Yeah. The guy from Otaku has amazing Dragon Quest 11 review. In attack mode, you can chain combos with your... Oh, you're talking about Artanelico. How long did it take to finish Dragon Quest 11? I took, God, 70 to 80 hours. Because I was trying to also get, like, everyone's costume. That's another thing I like about... I like in JRPGs is when they have different costumes. That's what I loved about Tales. Like, exploring and finding the owls gave you... you know, different costumes. Like that was the collectible. I thought that was super cool. But yeah, so I did a lot of the extras. So it took me like 70 to 80 hours because Dragon Quest 11 is kind of like Return of the King. It's like, it's over. Just kidding. It's over. Just kidding. It just like keeps going. Let's see. What would have made that experience better for you? I'm intrigued around the combat system being a killer. What would have made it better? I mean, again, I'm not a designer, but what I'm saying is like something snappier. I don't want to keep bringing up Persona, right? Because that's annoying. But I mean, to me, that's the gold standard. It's quick, it's snappy, it makes you want to keep playing. So like, I love the Persona combat. I'm trying to think of other, like, I like Octopath Traveler's combat. It's kind of similar in that you're unblocking weaknesses, and then once you hit enough weaknesses, you put them in a weakened state. So what would you call that? Like a stagger? That's like a stagger meter, essentially. Like Final Fantasy 13, like, had the beginnings of that, right? Like they had the stagger system, but I don't think it was that good. I think it got better in Lightning Returns, weirdly enough. I actually kind of like the combat in Lightning Returns. I know people hate that game, but That combat in that game was pretty good. Pretty good. Oh, Return of the King's amazing. Gia, like, I love Return of the King. That's like one of my favorite movies ever. But my point in saying that is that, like, it has multiple endings. It's like, oh, we saved the ring. Just kidding. Okay. Oh, they're back home. Just kidding. Oh, and then Frodo's got to get on the boat. Okay, we're not done. It just keeps going. Octopath. Final Fantasy X. I feel like Final Fantasy X is like the... How can I describe Final Fantasy X? 10 is about the most basic you can get for me, but still make it tolerable. Because what I like about 10 is it has the timeline where you can see the turn order, but then you can swap out characters mid-battle. But other than that, the combat's pretty straightforward. But also, you know, like you can... each character has like a designated class, kind of. Let's see. I found Xenoblade combat hard work, and it was something that made enjoying the combat hard. Yeah. See, like, Xenoblade, I think, is so overly complicated. Like, I see what they're doing, and they're trying to do this MMO thing, but then it's like, okay, then you got to break them, then you got to tumble them, then you got to flip them, and then you got to slam them. It's just like, oh my God, I'm like doing a math problem trying to do that combat. I think Torna and then 3 are probably the best versions of that combat. Torna just really simplified it. Yeah, Fantasian. But see, here's the thing with Fantasian, right? It has like 2 really unique, cool gimmicks that I think make it interesting. One is the dimension, right? You don't have to fight. It's not like random encounters, and it's not that you see the enemies on the screen. You like build up how many enemies you want to fight at once. And then you can activate combat whenever you feel like it, or you can just wait till it fills up and then you fight like 30 or 40 or 50 guys at a time. But then the other thing is you have that aiming mechanic where you can either like put a circle down or like a curved line or a straight line. That's super unique. Like I've never seen a game do that. Like obviously the more recent Cold Steel games have stuff like that, but it doesn't have the dimension thing. And I think that's what makes it unique. But also... Monster Hunter 4, see, okay, even Monster Hunter Stories is straightforward. No, it's not. Monster Hunter Stories is not straightforward because in Monster Hunter Stories, you can swap weapons in the middle of combat. You can swap your monsties in the middle of combat. You can ride your monster to do big attacks. You can do team up attacks with your monstie. That Monster Hunter Stories is not basic. Yeah, see, rock, paper, scissors, to me, that's a gimmick. Rock, paper, scissors is a gimmick to me. So I would not consider Monster Hunter Story straightforward. See, this is again, I'm not saying you're wrong, D, but I think a lot of people are misinterpreting what I'm saying. Again, let me refresh for anybody that is just coming in. When I say basic, bare bones, turn-based combat, I'm talking about Final Fantasy 1 basic, Dragon Quest 1 basic. I attack, the enemy attacks. I attack, the enemy attacks. That's it. Like maybe you get new abilities, but like you can use items, but that's it. And Dragon Quest 11, we're watching Dragon Quest 11 footage here. That is like, I think it's acceptable because it's Dragon Quest, but also we mentioned it before. The 3 most recent Dragon Quest games all gave you the ability to speed up the combat. And I think that's a gimmick. So again, even Monster Hunter Stories, I love Monster Hunter Stories too. My girlfriend's been borrowing my Switch and she just beat it actually. Yeah, that one, that's got tons of gimmicks. So no, I don't count that basic combat at all. But see, and I might even be wrong with Final Fantasy 1, right? Because Retro Brandon says there's party building and strategy like that, right? Because you can make like all white mages, all knights or whatever. So that's not even a great example. Yeah, okay, the Judgment Ring. See, that was another thing that people kept getting mad at me about. It's like, oh, Shadow Hearts and Legend of Dragoon and Final Fantasy, Super Mario RPG, or the turn-based or the pressing thing gets boring. but and it may. I agree. Like I think those systems don't age super well, but at least it does something interesting. Okay, Daniel Robinson keeps bringing up Battle Chasers Nightwar. Let's look at this. Battle Chasers Nightwar is like Diablo with turn-based combat, which I don't think works. Nightwar, but I don't know what that combat system is like. Okay, again, we're gonna keep feeding Switch up because I like those guys and they watch my channel. Let's see. So it's basically exploring and then you get into turn-based combat. Music, sound, and HD rumble. Okay, we don't want that. We just want the combat. But I think this is kind of basic. Like, okay, you have the turn order on the side. I don't know how this system works, so I'm looking at it for the first time. But man, this art style is gorgeous. Like, look at that art style. Woof. Okay, an overcharge. Okay, so Daniel, you're in the chat. Explain to me how this system works so we can get the conversation going a little bit. So there's overcharge. What does overcharge do? I'm playing Pokemon and loving it. I also can't wait for Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD remake. But I totally agree with the premise of this video. Bye. Again, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD are going to have speed up mechanics, so it's not basic. And Pokemon has weaknesses, monsters evolve, you can swap out Pokemon mid-battle. That doesn't apply here. Yes, and I'm saying, again, Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D added a speed up mechanic, which is a gimmick. Speed up doesn't have anything to do with complexity. My premise is that bare bones combat with no gimmicks doesn't work in 2025, and a speed up mechanic is a gimmick. What's up, Slam? Good to see you, dude. There are endless action RPGs that are just as unsuccessful and unknown. And then again, people are misinterpreting what I'm saying by saying, oh, well, he's hating on turn-based combat, so that must mean he's pushing action combat. No, like, you know, we've been going for almost an hour. How much have we been talking about action RPGs? Like very, very little. So my point is not that action RPGs are better than turn-based combat. I'm just saying turn-based combat needs an extra gimmick. And my original tweet was specifically targeted at like indie developers or just developers in general, saying that like, if you want your game to have appeal or you want people to not find your game boring, you need to add something extra to keep the combat interesting. East Filgana. Oh, East Othan Filgana. Yeah, that game is hard. But again, I think we're talking semantics here. My point is, you're saying like, oh, it's not a gimmick, it's a quality of life thing. Okay, so if it's a quality of life thing, why doesn't, if the combat is so good, why does it need to add something to improve the quality of life? Because the combat isn't good or it's not interesting. If people found basic turn-based combat with no speed up mechanics so fun, then why do they keep adding it to all these remasters? Why do they keep adding it to all these remakes? Because people don't find simple turn-based combat fun. I mean, this is what happens when the Niners have a bad season. Yes, my Niners had a very bad season, and now they have a high draft pick, but people don't know sports ball probably, so. Yeah, Lions, I mean, they love turn-based combat, they just want it to go faster. Aha. So again, if it's if it's fun, then why does it need to go faster? If it's fun on its own, like Persona, right? Persona doesn't have a speed up mechanic, but the gimmicks within the combat make it fun. You don't need it to be sped up, right? Again, Pokemon never adds speed up, even to the remakes. Why? Because the weakness system, the swapping out of your Pokemon in the middle of combat, That's good enough. Yes, Persona is fast, but I think speed up is good for remasters, and it helps with grinding. And I brought this up earlier. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong about this. Was Bravely Default, the original Bravely Default on the 3DS, was that the first game that added speed up for a JRPG? Because I think it was. I could be totally wrong. Happy Console Gamer, what's up, Johnny? JRPGs suck. Says the guy whose favorite game of all time, Phantasy Star 4, is a JRPG. By the way, where's that remaster? They should remaster all the Phantasy Star games, dude. Put that in a collection, add some speed up mechanics. I think by Johnny reviewing that game alone, that would push thousands of copies. Let's see. Pokemon doesn't speed up battles because it's targeted for kids. I don't know. Have you seen how many adults play Pokemon? I mean, I still play Pokemon, right? Like, I played it as a kid. And so people that grew up with it just keep playing it. So I don't know if, Pokemon is targeted at kids, you're right. But I don't think that's the majority of people that play it. I mean, look at the reviews and how much people hate it. It's because it's not evolving and it's not doing new things. Let's see. Final Fantasy IV. Okay, hold on. Somebody said something about Final Fantasy IV. What are we talking about with Final Fantasy IV? Is widely considered the first major JRPG. Really? Final Fantasy IV on Super Nintendo? Or are you talking about like a re-release? And they play it on sped up. They literally playing Crystal as we speak. Almost like it was built-in mods or remaster. The gameplay. Okay, let's see. That is the actual Happy Console Gamer. I'm pretty sure. I mean, the super chat was in Canadian dollars, so I think so. Plus, me and Johnny are buddies, so I always watch his videos. He pops in my streams sometimes. Let's see. Awesome Goku. Are you talking about, was there a game that sparked my tweet? Yes. The original game that sparked that tweet was because, again, I probably shouldn't be saying this because whatever, but I streamed the demo for an upcoming game called Maliki Poison of the Past. It's based on like a visual novel, or not a visual novel. I always say that. A graphic novel in France. Let's see. Let me see if I can find Maliki Poison of the Past demo. Did someone just play through the demo? And I kind of misspoke because even this doesn't have like basic turn-based combat. It has some unique gimmicks where you can manipulate the flow of time. Here, I'm gonna just put my stream on because I streamed the whole thing. So let's go to my channel. Let's look at the combat here. And of course my stupid big head the video is blocking. But like, this is pretty basic turn-based combat. You can't speed it up. You can attack, block, but like even this isn't basic, right? Like there's a weakness system. There's a system where there's focus, and if you spend focus points, you can like rewind and readjust the timeline. And I just didn't understand how this system worked. Like I played the demo for a second time and I got a better grasp of it. But even this is not a great example. This was the game that sparked the debate initially though. I don't know, I'm gonna put Sea of Stars on just so there's something in the background. But another, again, we brought up a couple other games. 8-Bit Adventures 2, I think the combat in that game is pretty straight up. And then this guy's game, Starlight Legacy, it's like a Super Nintendo era accurate JRPG. Gameplay highs. Man, Sea of Stars could have been great. This game, but this has so many gimmicks, right? Like it has the weakness system. It kind of copied it from Octopath Traveler. I just wish we had more abilities. Like I'm doing that moon boomerang thing till the end of the game. Like I wish they added more abilities. Streaming your own stream while streaming new content. Weaknesses are in every turn-based game. Let's see. Another issue, it's difficult to isolate combat as an issue. If Square Enix had released Starlight Legacy and reskinned it as Dragon Quest, it would have been a... That's probably true, but it's not, right? So I've always wanted them... You know what would have been wild? I would have loved, like, if Final Fantasy 17 was an HD 2D game. Like, how fun would that be? I don't think they would ever do that, though. But I think that would be so cool. Let's bring it back and make it classic. Let's do HD 2D for like a mainline numbered Final Fantasy. I think that would be super cool. Let's see. Yeah, HD 2D Final Fantasy 6, HD 2D Chrono Trigger. Ooh, Kenneth Toro. Yeah, see, let's look up Clair Obscur. Gameplay? I don't know if there's a lot of gameplay, but they did... Oh, they did do gameplay. Okay. Let's throw this in the background. But this has so much more going for it, right? Like, obviously the visuals are stunning. The thing that I can't believe about this game is there's only like 50 people working on it. This looks like a... If you called this Final Fantasy 17, I would have believed you. Like, yeah, the visual fidelity looks amazing. Here, let's look at the combat here. So we swirl into combat. It's got a very Persona-esque UI with the thing we do. And then there's timed button presses. I'm super, super curious how people are going to take to this timed button press thing. I wonder if it's going to get annoying, or I wonder if it's going to be snappy and fast enough to where it doesn't matter. Ah, but see, look on the left here. You can also dodge and parry. So like trying to figure out like when you need to dodge, when you need to parry. I love that on the left-hand side, you can see the turn order. I think every JRPG needs to have a turn order. Every turn-based JRPG. It's just like, let us know what the order is. Okay, he performed a counter. Interesting. And it looked like there was some kind of weakness system in there too. They're just exploring. There's not a lot of combat. Okay, here we go. Now we got more people. Parried. Okay, parry. Okay, time, dodge. Interesting. All right, so we've got overcharge, fire. Aha, so here, this is interesting. I'm wondering if like, so look at this. So there's like these little pellets, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then your abilities require a certain number of pellets. I wonder if like doing normal attacks gives you these pellet point. I don't even know what these are called. These points. And then, or if blocking gives you those points. But again, that's another cool gimmick because you need to keep track of these points and you can recover them. So there's like this strategy of, do I save them for a big attack? When do I want to use them? That's very interesting. Perfect. But it's also fast, right? We were just talking about it can't be slow. I think that's the other thing with a lot of JRPGs. They have these really long, elaborate animations. It's like, let's make it snappy and fast. Yeah, Dragon Quest doesn't have turn order, which is interesting. Let's see. So it's hard to say how, let's see, blah, blah, blah. I love how this is just a love fest for other channels too. That's great. Slam and Brandon and Happy Console Gamer are getting their love in. Don't forget to give some love to Miss Bubbles as well. She's been awesome. She loves her JRPGs and her cozy games. Yeah, this game's going to be fast. I agree, Kenneth. Stanceless, offensive. Okay. Oh, now we got stances. Okay. I guess I didn't know that. All right, and there's status effects. So, boom, boom. Oh, okay, look at this. Let's rewind and look at this. Okay, watch what happens when he does the blocks. So when he parries, it gives him another point, right? So he's at 3 points, 3 parry points. I don't know if sorry, I hope it's not blocking it. But then when he fails to do it, it costs him a point. Now he's at 2. He was at 3. So blocking or not blocking gives you extra points. And then, so he's at 2, and then it's his turn. Okay, so it gave him a point when it became his turn. So yeah, these little points seem to be very important to the combat system. That's interesting. I have never really like dug into the combat system for this. I'm just like, oh, it looks cool. But it's interesting to see the little nuances that they have going on. Dodge. Okay, she got a point. Okay, maybe only that girl has stances, because so Pierce, offensive switch, spark. Interesting. Ah, gee, there's just so much happening on screen. I can't even like keep up with it. Okay, hold on. Alternate between offensive and defensive stance. Maybe this girl's like special thing is she has stances or something. God, doesn't this game look gorgeous? This is my most anticipated game, like by far, and it's not even close. This game looks so sick. And the other thing that I like about it is the premise is like kind of ridiculous if you think about it, right? It's like the premise is there's this painter and they paint an age, and whenever they paint that age, anyone that's that age or older, they get killed. And so they're trying to stop them before they, the next one happens. It's such a silly, like unrealistic thing, but they're taking it so seriously. It's like, it's so earnest, and it's in like such a photorealistic style. And the way that the characters are like describing, like dealing with their own mortality is super cool. That was a really cool story point that I enjoyed about Xenoblade 3. But yeah, this is going to be, man, I think this is going to be Game of the Year contender. That's just me, though. I'm super pumped for this game. Sean the King has your attention. Reminds me of Legend of Dragoon a little bit, yeah. Nice. So Sean, forgive me for my ignorance, but do you also like review like RPGs, have a channel? I'm guessing you have a check mark, so you must be a fairly big channel. No new game announcement has caught my attention to be my most anticipated. 2025 is my catch-up. You review indie games. Okay, cool. Well, you have a very unique perspective then, because most of this conversation was targeted around indie games that weren't doing something interesting with their turn-based combat. So if you had if I missed your take earlier, let me know. Yeah, that's the other thing about this game too. Somebody just posted. Who posted that? I missed it. Oh, Kenneth. Yeah, this game's only $50. What the heck? They could easily charge 70, I think, and get away with it. Now, my only concern is that it's short. It's like, okay, you have the visuals. It looks like a AAA quality game from a visual standpoint. They have like this big world map. The story seems interesting. They have like top talent, like Andy Serkis is in this. Charlie Cox, who plays the live action Daredevils in this game. Ben Starr, who is Clive from Final Fantasy 16's in this game. So they have like top talent. My only concern is that this game's like 10 hours. But I think, I could be wrong, but I think they've said that they're trying to shoot for like 30. So I don't know why they're only charging 50. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, 30-ish hours. Okay, that's what I thought, Oz. Because I gotta be honest, like, I'm gonna turn 40 this year, and I'm pretty busy, right? I'm a busy guy. I don't like games being 80 hours. And I say that, like, which is so hypocritical as someone that loved Rebirth and Persona. But like, if you can give me a tight 25 to 30, I would much prefer that than like a bloated 60 to 70. Because even Persona 5, I love Persona 5, but like that game feels like 1 or 2 dungeons too long, right? Yeah, I'm shocked at that price too. $50 is nuts. So I really am. I'm curious why they decided to do that. Like goodwill, because these guys seem like hardcore JRPG fans. Like they talked about like, oh, we're so proud to have a world map. Like when they were in that Xbox showcase and they talked about the world map, they were like super excited about that. So they know that JRPG fans love a good world map. I mean, we've been beating on the visuals. The story seems interesting. I'm like waiting. I'm waiting for the bad part, right? Like this is kind of what happened with Stellar Blade. Like Stellar Blade was coming out. I'm like, okay, these guys have never made a AAA game before. Visually, it looks good. The combat looks fun. What's wrong? Where's the catch? And there was no catch. The game was great. Say what you will about the fan service. The game was actually good. Now the story was whatever, and I guess maybe that's it. But like, it was super fun to play. But yeah, I'm waiting for the bad part with this game, and I don't know if there is one, but it just seems odd that they would only charge $50. Magna Carta. Okay, but again, I said AAA. Is Magna Carta a AAA game, Oz? When did Magna Carta come out? On PS2? We're getting into the weeds here. Let's look up Magna Carta game a review. Magna Carta PS2 review. Somebody had to have reviewed this. Noisy Pixel reviewed this. Wow. Magna Carta proves a JRPG sometimes needs more waifus. What a name for a review. Let's just look up gameplay. Okay. Ooh, so blurry. Oh, that's okay. Interesting. See, they've got some interesting turn-based combat stuff. Get out of here, Oz. Let's see. I get. Let's not hate on Oz now. I mean, Magna Carta, it's a game, but it's not a AAA game. What were we just looking at? Oh, Clair Obscur. I want to see the Clair Obscur Xbox thing. Yeah, dude. There was a trailer, but I want to see the... Okay, here we go. Of course, we got to watch it on IGN. Ugh. But this world looks so unique. Like, look at this thing. Oh my God, dude. I'm like, I love a good JRPG town. Like, that's my thing. I love JRPG towns. So the fact that these towns look as good as they do, man. Super cool. I'm skipping around to see if they just have some straight gameplay, because this was a lot of like, hey, let's talk to the developers and showcase their cool studio in like a church or whatever. And they've got like these weird, like these guys, it's so unique. Like that's the other thing, man. You know, I might have to come back to what you were saying, Brandon. The combat is not going to be the first thing that grabs your attention. It'll help, but like, this game just being unique and fresh. Like, I feel like, oh man, look at this world map. We got a world map, and we've got this big, fat, weird guy that flies us around. He's like a balloon, and then he's a boat. Oh, this game's going to be good. This is just turning into a Clair Obscur stream. Let's see. Artanelico. I wish I could play Magna Carta. I'm French, and France really likes Japan with manga and anime. That's what I've heard. Anyway, I think I've said my piece, though. I mean, again, just to recap, for anybody that came late or didn't see what I originally was trying to get at, let me just recap the point of this stream and the point of this tweet, because I think many people misinterpreted it, right? So... This was originally aimed at developers, right? Okay, so it says, I'm going to pick this apart piece by piece so people don't misinterpret it. A heartfelt word of advice to developers working on RPGs with turn-based combat. Simply having turn-based combat isn't good enough. You need something to spice it up. Some examples: timed button presses, ability to speed up the battles, gaining an extra turn if you hit an enemy's weakness, chained echoes, overdrive system, right? Because I think sometimes people like indie devs or devs will put out a trailer and it's like turn-based combat, and it's like, okay, we are like way over the retro like revival of like, yes, we got turn-based combat again. Like, that's not enough. You need more. And these were just some examples. I'm not saying these are like the end all be all best things you can do to a turn-based combat, but I'm just saying these are just some examples that were off the top of my head. And then I said, look at games that have made turn-based combat exciting and fun. Again, these are just examples. I'm not saying you have to do it exactly like this, but it was Metaphor, Persona, Chained Echoes, Octopath Traveler. Find a way to put your own unique spin on it. Again, the point of this tweet was to help developers not just have basic turn-based combat if they want their game to succeed. Now, if they want to make a game and have it be niche, knock yourself out. I don't care, you know? And I'm not saying games like that can't exist. I'm not saying they shouldn't exist. I'm not saying if you play games like that, you can't enjoy them. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm also not saying nowhere in here does it say anything about action combat is better. I'm not saying action combat is better. My favorite games of all time are turn-based games. I said Persona 4 Golden, Final Fantasy 7. I don't know if you count Final Fantasy Tactics as turn-based, but that's up there. So, like, do not misinterpret what I'm saying, okay? And here is what I'm pointing to, right? And again, I love this guy. What's up, Shinky? By the way, I heard that you posted one of my tweets in the JRPG, some Facebook community, and I saw it. So thank you for doing that. So, okay, anyway, I want to mention a couple games as some examples, right? Again, this is not to say these games are bad. These people are bad. They should be ashamed of themselves. I'm just giving you an example, right? Let me bring this up as a point of comparison. 8-Bit Adventures 2. It would help if I could spell. Okay. So this was about a month ago. So Josh, the owner of Critical Games, who made 8-Bit Adventures 2, fantastic, very well made 8-bit style JRPG that it was like super faithful to those kinds of games. We're thrilled to announce that we've sold 19,000 copies in 2 years, and the series as a whole has sold 48,000. Now, like, let's keep it real. 20,000 isn't like topping any charts or anything. But I'm sure for Josh, it's like, yes, this is what I'm passionate about. It's enough to where I can make a living and I can make the next game. So I'm like, that's great. Super happy for him. And, you know, it was reviewed very well. It has like an 85 or 86 or something on OpenCritic. But again, let's look at this. So 241 Steam reviews. Now, this could mean nothing, right? But okay, 241 Steam reviews. We go to Chained Echoes, a game that we've talked a lot about in this stream. Chained Echoes. 241 reviews versus 6,200 reviews, right? So if we're just doing some funny math, right? 19,000 copies for 8-Bit Adventures 2. My guess is Chained Echoes has sold several 100,000 copies. And again, as Brandon has pointed out, oh, I loved 8-Bit Adventures 2, David, by the way. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm not saying people can't enjoy it. But I'm saying if you want your game to have wider appeal, you need to do something like Chained Echoes did. Like, it gave a very unique spin on turn-based combat in multiple different ways. With the overdrive system, you could swap out your characters. There's mech combat. I would actually love to get David's perspective, since I know he's more of a retro guy than I am. But David, my premise for this whole stream in that tweet was that basic turn-based combat where I attack, the enemy attacks, the end, is not good enough in 2025. We need something extra to spice it up for it to appeal to a big audience. And that is my point, is to appeal to a big audience, not that they can't exist or that people can't enjoy them. And so another game that I was talking about was this one. So this was Starlight Legacy. Let's pull this up. Legacy, whoops, Starlight Legacy. And I know David featured this game in a video pretty recently, I think. Very Super Nintendo era accurate. But again, combat pretty straight up, like nothing special. He's even admitted like sales are really low right now. And 13 reviews. And I know Eric Ladd made a video about this and did a review or something. Okay. I love the tweet. It's true. We need at least fast forwarding for it. Thank you. If the retro JRPG guy agrees with me, then I feel like I can rest my case. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, all the new Dragon Quest games have added speed up, like a speed up mechanic. Now, I could be wrong, but I actually think Starlight Legacy might have a speed up ability. I could be wrong. I don't know. Let's look at turn-based combat. I don't know. Perhaps. Anyway, let's just keep playing this in the background. But yeah, I just think you got to have a way to turn it up. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Like the last handful of Dragon Quest games, yeah, they're basic turn-based combat, but they had a speed up mechanics. HD 2D 3 remake, 11S, 8 on the 3DS, they all added a speed up mechanic. Yep. So it's all quality of life. I mean, turn-based combat was how it was just because like there was no other way to do it, right? Like there was some action RPGs back in the day, but it's not what it is today, obviously. Yeah. So we were trying to figure that out, David. So I surmised that it started with Bravely Default. Someone brought up earlier that some version of Final Fantasy IV added it before Bravely Default, but I'm super not familiar with that. So but yeah, I think Bravely Default, like I think Bravely Default changed it for the better. And like if you read that big tweet I had, like Square Enix didn't even want to publish that game in the West, which is crazy. And it like sold beyond their expectations and people loved it. I mean, besides the speed up mechanic, they had the Bravely Default. You could adjust the encounter rate, which is so nice, especially if you like want to grind or if you don't want to run into enemies. Like, what are some RPGs you think were quick when you played them initially? Are you talking about combat? We have a lot of turn-based competition. That's true. Creative spins on classic turn-based combat is what helps extend the longevity of the genre. I totally agree, Emily. Oh, hey, what's up, Emily? Good to see you. Okay, I'm trying to think. What are some JRPGs that had fast combat? I'm trying to think of the first one where I was like, ooh, this feels different. Because I remember like growing up, like it all felt the same, right? It was all just, you attack, I attack. Because I used, like, around the middle, like, when Final Fantasy 12 came out, I kind of stopped playing JRPGs for, like, 3 or 4 years, and then I came back during PS3, only to learn that that was one of the worst generations ever for JRPGs. I'm trying to think of a game that I thought felt fast. I mean, Bravely Default, the 3DS, I think, is really where the modern era of JRPGs, like, got revived to me. Like, I always felt like, yeah, Bravely Default, even like Pokemon, I always felt like was kind of fast. Because, like, and then maybe turn-based combat felt fast with Pokemon because there's so many other things in it. And yeah, Fire Emblem is awesome. That's why I bought a 3DS, was for Fire Emblem Awakening. Final Fantasy L. Uh, I guess I guess Pokemon, because I got the 3DS and then I played Fire Emblem, and then I think probably X and Y came out before Bravely Default. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, that's true. You have to like be. I guess Final Fantasy Legend. Oh, Final Fantasy Legend. So Square. So the Saga games. Let's see. Yeah, Chrono Trigger was fast. Suikoden was fast. I'm trying to think, because I like what really got me back into JRPGs was I had a PSP and then I was playing like all the classics. Like I played the Lunar remake. Maybe Lunar remake was kind of fast. Again, I don't remember. Suikoden. I'm trying to think of what other games I played. Grandia, maybe, but Grandia is also a little bit slow. But anyway, yeah. You know, I feel like Square Enix is missing out on a big opportunity because they just had a big anniversary stream for Bravely Default, Octopath Traveler, and Triangle Strategy, all the HD 2D stuff or whatever. I'm surprised they haven't done an HD port of Bravely Default 1 and 2. I'm really surprised that they haven't done that. Bravely Default review. Let's have that since we're talking about that right now. Bravely Default 2. Oh man, game trailers. I love game trailers. Classic. Bravely Second. Yeah, I didn't play Four Heroes of Light. I mean, Bravely Default is basically a sequel to Four Heroes of Light, is it not? Team Asano's holding off the Switch 2 Direct to announce. Probably. I know that, man, I'm really excited about that Direct because there's going to be so many games. Yeah, Bravely Default is like a 9.5 or a 9 out of 10, but then that ending, my God, what were they thinking? And they do it in Bravely Second also, if I'm not mistaken. Like bringing back pre-rendered backgrounds, like all these cool new takes on turn-based combat. The music in this game is incredible. The job system, like, my God. Yeah, the ending is terrible. I don't know what they were thinking. Even if you like are like, oh, it's for story reasons. Okay, then change the story. That was terrible. What an awful like cap to the end of the game. Because I'm like, I heard that. I remember when I was reading reviews and I just heard people talking about it. I'm like, it can't be that bad. And then I got there. I'm like, oh God, what were they thinking? If we get a Bravely Default collection, they need to include it too. Ooh, Four Heroes of Light. That'd be cool. Town building. Was there a town building mechanic in Bravely Default? I don't even remember. It's been a long time since I've played the original Bravely Default. But anyway, yes, the ending sucks, David. I agree. And then Bravely, let's talk about this. Why do we think Bravely Default 2? Why didn't that work? Because I feel like people played it and it was just sort of like, we're over that. Like, why didn't people like Bravely Default 2? Is it the art style? My thought is the art style doesn't translate as well to a home console. The music's still incredible. That I would argue that's almost the best battle theme ever. That battle theme is straight fire. I love the combat system, the job system. It's a little hard though. I feel like the bosses in particular are really hard in this game. And you have to like really think and get creative with the job system. That was my thing about this game. It was just kind of hard. And then the story is sort of whatever. But I remember I don't know, Craft, if you're in here, but Craftium did a really interesting video talking about like why this game doesn't work visually when it's translated from the 3DS to like Switch. Yeah, you had to use very specific bosses for the jobs. That's kind of what I didn't like about Metaphor, because Metaphor was kind of the same way. Like, if you didn't have a very specific setup, then good luck. Because you almost have to play the battle, lose, and then switch and start over, which is, I don't like that. I want there to be a way to, whatever my setup is, that I can brute force it or do something. But I don't like that you have to have a very specific job or ability. Oh, people are gonna hate me for this. Miami Sunrise says, "What's my take on Golden Sun?" I've never played Golden Sun. I never had a GBA, and I never had a OGDS, so I never played the Golden Sun games because the game was so good. Bravely Default is one of the coolest job systems. I agree. Metaphor needed. I never had a restart. I feel like Metaphor had to. Oh, is Golden Sun on the Switch Online thing? Well, I know what I'm playing. Actually, that's not true. I'm going to be playing Monster Hunter this week. But eventually, I'll probably play Golden Sun. Let's see. Even Final Fantasy V, I remember playing. I remember playing Final Fantasy V, David, when they did the pixel remasters, and I feel like near the end of the game, there was some stuff where I'm like, oh, I don't have the right setup. I got to switch it out. But yeah, Fantasian, definitely. I got kind of annoyed because I feel like the first half, part one of Fantasian is like perfect. It's like this sort of linear experience. It gives you time to explore. It's very fun. The bosses aren't that hard. But then in the second half, it's just like, I have to use these like ultra specific setups, even though Fantasian's really, really good. But man, yeah, man, Bravely Default 2. I wonder if they're going to make a third one, right? Like if I'm Team Asano and I'm Square Enix and you're looking at, do we make Bravely Default 3, Octopath Traveler 3, or Triangle Strategy 2? My money would be on Octopath 3, but you gotta really mix it up. And I think they really need to find a way to bring the stories together, because that continues to be people's number one criticism of those games, is that there's no way to unite the stories. Octopath 2 review. So that would be my thing if they do an Octopath 3. I think the stories were very much improved. I think they added a speed up mechanic in this one, and then they added those like unique character specific abilities. They made the cameras much more dynamic, so they changed a lot in Octopath Traveler 2. But I think if they can find a way to unite those stories, I think people will be happy. They've been successful. They could do all three. Yeah, I think they could do all three as well. I would love Triangle Strategy 2, but I feel like they really need to like rein it in with the story. I think people often call Triangle Strategy a visual novel that happens to have strategy RPG combat, which hard to disagree. So I would love for them to switch that up so they don't have to do that and make it more of a strategy RPG, you know? Yeah, I feel bad that you haven't played Octopath 2 yet. Hey, man, it's going to be there forever. Don't worry. It's on every console. In fact, it's going to be cheaper if you wait. So how much do you want to bet Team Asano is doing the Tactics remake? Okay, this is also something I'm curious about. I've heard conflicting things. So for the Tactics, for Final Fantasy Tactics, on the NVIDIA leak, they call it a remaster. But I've heard people call it a remake. And I'm not sure what they're doing. I don't know if they're going to remake it in HD 2D. I don't know if they're going to do just literally a remaster, like keep the same visuals, but add like, I don't know, Clive's a playable character, add some new classes. I don't know. I'm really curious what they're going to do with it. But yeah, I know they're doing the Tactics thing because who's the director? Help me out, guys. Who basically did all the evilest stuff. He even tweeted, he's like, oh, if we were to do a remaster, should we nerf Orlando? And it's like, yes, that guy's super overpowered. He's so crazy. Yeah, oh man, April 2nd. That would be great to get Matsuno, is that his name? Yasumi Matsuno? Is that the guy that directed it? Yasumi Matsuno. Okay, thank you, Kami. Yeah. Can they fix the slowdown? God, I hope so. Yeah, I remember people patched the PSP version to fix the slowdown. I mean, we're on modern hardware. There's got to be a way to fix that. Thunder God Sid must remain OP. If you don't want to use him, don't. That's actually good because it's essentially a way to make the game easier. It's like he's a Dark Knight that you don't have to grind to get the Dark Knight job for. So, Gafgarian. I love that his name is Gafgarian. That's so funny. That's like a guy named John Johnson. I feel like we're going to get a bunch of announcements from all the big companies once the April Direct because we've heard nothing. Yeah, I think people are holding back. Maybe they're under embargo or like an NDA. They can't say anything. But yeah, all bets are off once that Direct comes out. My favorite thing to do with Gafgarian, because I've played the game so many times, I know when something happens and you can take his armor. So I remember before that battle, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil a 30-year-old game, 20-year-old game. But there's a part where you have to fight him, and I remember I could take all his gear off, so he's super easy to beat. It's so funny. Tales of the Abyss remaster. Ooh, Genji gear from Elmdor. Yeah, that battle's hard. I remember that's like one of the hardest fights in the game. It's Weegraph and then Elmdor with those like ninja girls that can kill you in one hit. Oh my god, that was so annoying. Ooh, Pokemon Legends AZ. So I like what they're doing with the combat. It's like this weird blend of like keeping it the same, but then there's like real-time elements where you have to like dodge attacks and stuff. It looks cool. The only thing that's kind of a bummer is the entire game takes place in that city and there's no like exploration. They have like parts of the city that are like quarantined off. They're calling wild areas where you can catch Pokemon and fight them. I think that's weird. But we'll see. I feel like no one is ever happy with Pokemon, ever. No matter what they do, people are going to be disappointed. Is what confirmed Black Trife? Sorry, I'm not. Oh, is it confirmed that it's only in the city? That's true. I don't know if they have confirmed that. I don't know. But just based on the trailer, it seems like it. Black and White remakes, that's probably what's next after the ZA, but they might be hesitant after the Diamond and what was it, the Ruby and Sapphire remakes? What was the one that people hated with the chibi art style? The problem is Pokemon never tries to do something high effort. Yeah. Diamond and Pearl. Okay, Diamond and Pearl. Yeah, people hated that one. So they probably are like being careful with remakes now. It's like, people didn't like that one. So back to the drawing board. Final Fantasy, World of Final Fantasy. Oh God. Yeah, that's chibi. God, that art style in World of Final Fantasy is so ugly. Ugh. Yeah, it's still sold amazing because it's Pokemon. But let's look up the sales though. I wonder how much it sold. Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl sales. How much did it sell? Okay, 15 million. That's good. That's good. But what came? Okay, let's look at Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now that game was a dumpster fire, but I think that game sold better. Yeah, 25 million, right? So it's an extra 10 million. Now, 15 million is nothing to sneeze at. I'm sure people would kill each other to have their game sell 10 million copies. But I mean, when your game sells 10 million fewer copies, I mean, that's not good. What about Arceus? What did that sell? Pokemon Legends Arceus. What did that sell? 15 million. Okay. Maybe the main lines just sell better. Pokemon Sword and Shield. 26 million. Is that the second best selling? Okay, interesting. Behind Red and Blue, nothing's ever going to pass Red and Blue. Interesting. By the way, okay, let's talk about this for a second. because I don't know what people hated about this Pokemon Sword and Shield review. This is another hot take amongst my many hot takes. I think this is my favorite Pokemon game, Sword and Shield. I just love, but again, I'm a visuals and vibe guy. I love the look of this game. I love the vibes of this game. But people hated Sword and Shield for some reason. I mean, again, like I just said, what game didn't they hate? But what was it about Sword and Shield that they didn't like? Like, why did people not like it? I knew something about, like, they didn't add all the Pokemon that they said they were going to add. Okay, level design. But, like, let's be real. Level design is never important in Pokemon games, right? It's just you go straight and then you go up and you fight an enemy and then you go straight and then you go down and then you go to the town. Like, level design has never been Pokemon strength, no? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Bad performance? I only played it from what I can. Oh yeah, look at that poppin'. Yikes. Okay, yeah, look at this poppin' in the. I'm watching the review. The poppin' was not good. I played it on mostly in handheld mode, and it was like solid 30. I don't remember having any problems with it, but then I could have just been. I could be a hypocrite right now and just like, oh, this was. I was so like just immersed in the game that stuff didn't matter to me. I could be wrong, but they had caves and dungeons. This game doesn't have a single dungeon. Scarlet and Violet feels smooth. Oh, after Scarlet and Violet, it feels smooth. It just felt empty. I guess so. I mean, obviously the wild areas were empty, but to me, I loved going through these. Like, look at this town. Look at this town. Look how freaking cozy this town is. I love the color palette. I don't know. I just love. I'm a town guy. I'm a vibes guy. This just looks cozy AF. But I get what you're saying. Maybe in the bigger areas, like let's. Yeah, like this is obviously very empty. This is the wild area, right? Like there's nothing here. Literally, literally, there's nothing. Okay, there's a Pokemon, and then they had those like Gigantamax, like little hole things. I don't know what those are called. But I can see that argument. It's empty. Okay. Shelf vibes. What up, Tanacles? Don't tempt me. We're gonna, if we get enough super chats, I'm gonna go buy a boat somewhere. By the way, I love that is his thing. Like, of all the things that like people have as their little quotes and sayings, I love that "don't buy a boat" is his little saying. That's so funny. It doesn't look like it poses any potential challenge. Maybe I'm misremembering Pokemon, but when was Pokemon ever hard? Pokemon's always been easy. I almost feel like that's been the appeal, right? It's just like, to me, the fun's always been just like, you make your team of fun. You sent me a boat in the mail. Can't wait. It's not there yet, but I'll check. Maybe I'll get it. The Persona series wouldn't count? Wouldn't count as what? Okay. As I'm looking at this game, I'm looking at it with a fresh pair of eyes. When they just kind of like appear out of the ground, that's weird. Like I like that Legends Arceus, at least they were out in the world and you could see them, but the fact that they kind of just zoom out of the ground is strange. But again, I have to be honest. I'm like the most casual of casual Pokemon fan. Like I play the game. I enjoy it. I make my team of fun little guys. I beat the game and I'm done. Like I don't hunt for shinies. I don't try to collect every Pokemon. And maybe I'm the outlier, or maybe I'm not. And maybe that's why Pokemon sells so well and they don't feel like they need to add anything. But to me, I don't know, that stuff doesn't matter to me, but I had other stuff that made it bad. Hop was a nothing rival. Yeah, he was boring. The voice acting, yeah, I don't know why they don't do voice acting. Like even freaking Zelda started doing voice acting. That's like quitting WoW upon hitting level 60. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Sword and Shield hair bros at the end. Like, what the fuck was that? But I think also too, I kind of like the whole like Pokemon is like a sporting event. Like they have these big arenas. I'm a big sports guy, as you can see with my Niners hat. So the fact that they turn Pokemon into like a sporting event is kind of cool. These raid battles were whatever. Put on Fairy Tail on PS4 Switch game, and also it's a sequel. I actually really liked the Fairy Tail. I platinumed the first Fairy Tail on PS4. That game was good. I mean, it's very simple. Like you just take quests off the quest board and you go fight stuff. But I don't know what it was. I found that game very addictive. I don't know what happened, Tanacles. Everyone decided to drop their opinion. We had Bubbles, Happy Console Gamer, David Vink, Brandon, Slam was in here earlier. Yeah, it's just the whole RPG tuber people are in here sharing their 2 cents. Have I played Tactics Ogre Reborn? I have, and in fact, I have a review on the channel if you're curious, but that game was so frustrating. I think they ruined Tactics because like you can't grind in that game. They cut you at they like level cap you, and it's like, what was the point? But also, I've never been the biggest fan of Tactics Ogre because the battles I think are too big. Like you have like 12 guys on your team. Like it's crazy. Like the battles take like an hour and a half. So I'm not the biggest fan of Tactics Ogre to begin with, but I think in Reborn they just ruined it. You went on a hot take. I actually like Gen 7's take on encounter difficulty. It sucks that you are hand hostage from the exploration, but I got interesting Pokemon pool. I'm clocking your messy background. Oh yeah, I don't have a cool streamer background. I don't have a green screen. Maybe I should get a green screen. That might be easier. Yeah, I should probably clean up my my room before I stream. Ooh, let's go. Okay. Easy recommendation for a green screen. I'm willing to hear it. All right, awesome. Goku, thanks for stopping by. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm down. There's probably like software where it can just key me out, I'm sure. Is it a green boat? Can you imagine? I just have a green boat in the background. You like my dirty room? Private night lesson? Over 90 minutes. Yeah, wow. Anyway, this has been a fun discussion. I think people got a better grasp of what I was trying to say and kind of understood what I'm saying. I think it'd be hilarious if you got a green screen, keyed yourself out, and then put a picture of your and then just that would be like meta. That would be so random. NVIDIA broadcast can do that. Oh, that's cool. Same dirty room. My problem is my tiny little apartment here in Seoul doesn't have much room for storage, so I have resorted to just leaving it. Green screen's a game changer. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I'd like to do that. And it makes it easier too for like, how do I position myself instead of having to figure out a good background. They are really using this same clip over and over again. I don't even know what they're saying in this review, but they've used this clip over and over again. But anyway, yeah, I think I'm probably going to call it here. I think I've made my point in terms of what I meant in that tweet, why I think you need to add something to turn-based combat, and certainly not that action is better than turn-based combat. I never said that. And I'd like to think that we've also established that what I meant by bare bones turn-based combat, because that just doesn't work anymore. And even games that do have it have the speed up mechanic. So, or have the ability to fast forward the combat. So anyway, I may end up taking this stream and like editing it into a video because I'm so passionate about this topic. So we shall see. We'll see what comes up. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate everyone for coming by, especially the busy other YouTubers that big and small. Like a lot of the guys here have channels, Mad Kaiser, Shinky, Mecha. So appreciate you all stopping by. And maybe look out for me being on a guest appearance on a certain JRPG centric podcast, not naming any names, in the near future. So anyways, have a lovely weekend, everybody. It's Friday here in Korea, but I know it's Thursday night where you're at. I know Monster Hunter comes out. I'm going to be playing that. So anyway, hope you guys all have a good weekend. I will talk to you all very soon. Bye-bye.